Mose, I swear if you pee on that, you're going to be cleaning it off. Yes, I'm watching you. We know what you get up to. Hello guys, welcome back. Today we're just going to look through a couple of odd bits because we're getting the Jeep ready for the good revival, where it's going to be used as a taxi transport service for drivers and people like that trying to get from the motorhomes to the race course. And I take the Jeep out each year and do that. So there's a good amount of driving, and I've got to get the Jeep trailered out to Goodwood and spend 4 days driving down there. So it's going to be doing a bit of work shortly, so there's a couple of bits which we need to fix on it and sort out, and some other odd jobs we're going to be doing with the engine and some more cleaning up of things. But today, the first thing we're going to start with is getting rid of a bit of annoying noise. So you know on this Jeep, the hood on it has got the original paint underneath there. So I want to preserve all that paint as much as possible. And that means then that I can't really repair bits on it. You know, I'd like to redo the hinge at the back and do some rust stuff to it and rust prevention and sorting out some rust on it. But I can't really do that without risking damaging the paint. Obviously, if I do some welding on there, then the paint will get damaged. So I can't really do that. So the hood is what it is at the moment. But one of the problems is that it's the hinge on it, the piano hinge, is worn out. So when I'm driving it along, I was getting this clunking noise and I couldn't work out what it was, you know. So let's see what we can manage. Can you hear that? There's a lot of movement in there actually in the hood. It can move, slide backwards and forwards because the hinge line, which you can see is looking pretty rubbishy and rusty in there, is worn out and there's too much movement in it. So let's see. Can you see the rocking backwards and forwards? That, when you're driving along, makes a huge clunk, and I thought it was the transmission moving or something like that. It took me ages to work out where it was coming from, but I worked out it was the hinge clonking around. Now obviously, if you were doing this and you didn't mind about the paint, you'd just take the hinge out and weld in a new one, but I can't do that there because I've got to preserve what's underneath. So we're just going to try and make do and mend here, guys. Initially I used a nitrile bit of rubber jammed in here, and that stopped it rocking about, and that was pretty good. But the problem is this rubber is not, to get it in, it can't be a perfect circle, so it can come out, and when you open the hood up it was coming out and things like that, so that was a bit of a pain, so that wasn't really working. So I thought, how else can I shim out this gap, what can I do? And I came up with the idea of using E-clips. Now I'm not sure this is going to work, guys, but the idea is, grab an E-clip, if I can pick one up, yeah, grab an E-clip and jam it in the gap. And we'll hit it in a second, and that should take out the movement. So let's smack a couple of E-clips into it and see if that works then. Hopefully it will. I mean, this is a bit of a bubberization here, but I think it's a way of working around this clunking. So let's whack those in there. Right guys, a couple of E-clips jammed in there then. So if we try and rock it now, there's some movement on the size of the shaft which runs through there, but that clunking has stopped. And I open it, close, and they haven't flung out or anything like that. So that looks like some classic bodging there. Jam some shims in it pretty much is what we've done, and that's taken up some of the movement. I think what I'm going to have to do is do some proper work to this and get it off at some point, bend down the edges and get that shaft out and get a new shaft made for it so it's done properly, and then respray that bit up, because it won't be welding or damaging it or anything like that. We'll just get an oversized shaft, or a shaft of the worn diameter of those hinges in there, which will take up the slack, and I think that's one way of preserving it. You can see the shims shining there. I might need a bit of paint on that, but that is the hinge on the hood sorted out there, so hopefully that'll stop some of that terrible clunking which was annoying me. It's just a quick fix, isn't it? But we'll sort it out in proper in the future, but that's just an idea for you guys. If you get a hood which is making a noise as well, just shim it out there with some E-clips. Seems to work pretty nicely. So guys, back to my engine then. What I've been doing is degreasing it then. I got some industrial degreaser, one of the biodegradable ones, gave it a spray with that, so it's got flash rust on it from some of the bits which were shined up before because it's had water on it, but that doesn't matter, we'll still be working on it. But it's degreased it a good amount, and we've removed quite a lot, but you can see actually on the colour there's quite a lot of original olive drab still hanging around on it, which is interesting. So the outside of the block is not too bad actually. There's light rust. I mean, around here this area's got all the paint on it still, so it's done really well actually, which is nice. But I'm going to remove all that with a wire wheel, flapper discs and things like that, so that what we're going to be doing is the electrolysis is going to mainly be cleaning the inside of it. The outside will be manually cleaned, just to get that all off there. So I don't think there's a way of really avoiding doing manually cleaning to this. You're going to have to do a bit of it, but the electrolysis is going to do the inside portion, because if we come down here, I know it's in the dark unfortunately guys, hopefully camera doesn't get too upset. You should be able to see the rust in there. That's what we're going to be cleaning out there. That's what the electrolysis is getting at, is that huge amounts of rust hiding in there. And we'll help it and we'll do the outside portion. But I want the electrolysis to get all that out, get all the channels going. Because, I mean, look at this. You're doing a good job, camera. So it doesn't like the bright and the dark. That is the water outlet at the bottom there. And you can see that where the tap has been in there, on the other side, obviously that tap would never work because it's all jammed up with rust and crud and things like that. So the electrolysis is going to help remove all that, because there'll be bits like that inside the jacket you can't get to. An interesting thing we found is one of the freeze plugs is marked. I'm not sure if this is a post-war mark or not, or a post-war one, but it says, I think it says Hubbard on it. So that's quite an interesting bit. The other ones don't appear to be marked. They've got olive drab on them, original olive drab. So yeah, we're working on that slowly but surely, guys. We'll get that cleaned up and continue with that, and I'll keep you up to date with it. Yeah, 17,000 miles, guys. That's about 1,500 miles that I've done on it at the moment then. So we're getting somewhere. Engine's still running better. I think it's, you know, really settled in now, so it's great fun, but I think that's enough mucking around for one day. I think we need to get down to some proper work then. So what we've got then, guys, is something which I should have got quite a long time ago, right? And this is something which makes cleaning up small parts very, very easy indeed. Ready? And here it is. That's right, a vibrator, a rotary vibrator there. So this is a tumbler. Well, should I say it's a vibratory tumbler? That's more like it, not a rotary vibrator. God knows what that is, dread to think. But this is a vibratory tumbler, okay? And this thing here makes cleaning up small parts really, really easy and straightforward. What I'm talking about then is screws, small metal parts, anything up to 8 kilos this thing can take, including the media you put in it to clean stuff with. So I've got it really for working on these carburetors and cleaning up the small steel parts, which I can't really be bothered to do by hand because there's so much of it. You know, taking on like doing 15 carburetors is a lot of small parts, okay? So cleaning those up with wire wheels and stuff like that is ridiculous. So we've got this guy instead then, the vibratory tumbler. And what it is, well, it's a container which sits on top of a base and it can vibrate like that. So you can see it's moving in comparison to the base. So let's turn him on for a second. You can see what I'm talking about. Oh yeah, the lid's not on, that's why it sounds stupid. So it's quite quiet, you'll hear it properly in a second, but you can see the top vibrates, right? Yeah, vibrates itself apart if you don't do it up. But what you do then is you get hold of some of this media. This is ceramic media here, okay? It's quite a harsh one. Well, it's supposed to be a harsh one. It's supposed to be used on steel. You use plastics and things like that on alloys and aluminium, but you can use more harsh media on steel. And they're little ceramic triangles. These are 6mm ones, and these are the ones for getting into small components and small screws and things like that, right? You get hold of a load of this stuff, and it goes inside the top of the tumbler with a bit of water. So there's just a touch of water to act like a lubricant in there, and we also put a bit of an anti-rust formula in there as well, so that stops the flash rust forming on the metal once it's cleaning it. So you put your ceramic media in here with just a bit of water. You don't need much, it's just like a little bit of a lubricant. They'll go in there like that, okay? So you can imagine then there's a whole load of ceramic beads or triangles in there. When this vibrates, they all vibrate as well, and they all joggle around, and it's just the action of these joggling against each other and joggling against metal, which it rubs it each time it hits it. It rubs it, and it just rubs a little bit of rust away. Now this is supposed to be quite a harsh one, the ceramic beads or media, should I say, but I found it to be actually pretty soft and pretty gentle. It doesn't really damage the metal at all. It just removes the rust. So I would say it's actually quite a gentle way of cleaning it, especially with some water in there to act as like a lubricant. So what we'll clean then, guys, is this dude here, which is it was that cluster gear out of that transmission we had, which is no use. You can see there's surface rust on it, rust in the teeth and things like that. So This should be a good thing to test it with, I think. See how far it can get into it. Might need a couple of hours actually to sort this out, but we'll throw him in with a bit of the anti-rust formula as well and see how he gets on. So let's put some of that in there as well. You need 1 to 2% of the amount of water you put in there, and I only put in a tiny bit, so literally guys, a splash, that's all you need, and that's enough then to act as an anti-rust formula and help the cleaning as well. So let's put his lid on. If I can line him up without seeing. Where are we? There we go. Lid on. Where's the washer? Yeah, no, I've lost the washer. I'm going to have to find that. Stand by. Now the washer's legged it, unfortunately, so there's going to be no washer. Screw the top on. Right. And that's it. All you do then, guys, hit the power, and away he goes. We'll give him an hour and see how he's doing, and then we'll work our way through. It's actually fairly quiet. I mean, it does sound loud here, but it is fairly quiet, so we'll give it a while and see what we get out of it. Right guys, we've had an hour then, so let's have a look what we've got. I'm going to say don't expect miracles here. So I don't think it's going to come out looking sparkling brand new or anything, so don't get too excited. But as I said, these ceramic beads are actually quite gentle. Oh, I can hear Mose. Mose? Mose? What you up to? Right, let's get this lid off. Okay, so let's have a look then. So, still looking rusty, obviously, guys, but it started to clean up some areas then. Started to get in those teeth then, areas which you couldn't get at. That's drying off very quickly, isn't it? Yeah, you have to think about the energy expended and used versus what you're able to achieve here. Now with a wire wheel, you'd be able to achieve this in a couple of minutes, so you'd have only used a bit of energy, but you've had to have done it yourself, whereas this, you just throw it in there, uses more energy and takes more time, but is more gentle. So it's really a toss-up here, guys, about what you prefer, but you can see it's got in those teeth quite well there, actually. It's done pretty well cleaning up there after an hour, but as I said, it's what's better really. It does work really well on small parts as well. It seems to be doing pretty well here, so let's leave them in for a bit longer and see what we get then, guys. Okay guys, here we go. This is 2.5 to 3 hours. You can see then it's made quite a difference now, those teeth, where it can get to easily. It's really cleaned those up. On some of the teeth hidden away, it's still having difficulty getting in there. It's going to need quite a few more hours, I reckon. Probably same again to really get it going. The end ones, which are a little bit further apart, looks like it's got in there okay. You can see some lodged inside the bushing, but overall though, it's cleaned it up quite well. So I haven't had to do anything other than throw it in a tumbler for a couple of hours and pay for the electricity, but it does quite a good job on the steel parts. So give that another couple of hours, it'll clean it right up, and then we can go on to the next stage of the process. We'll look at that now then with some other bits that I've got. We'll put in some carburettor bits then. So the carb bits would have been cleaned up like this, with some little bits of rust left over, but generally pretty clean. And so let's move on to that stage then and see how we get on with that. So guys, once you've put the ceramic beads in there, or should I say the ceramic triangles, and had that working, you can then move on to polishing it then. So most of the rust is taken out, but you want to do a final polish to it to bring it up. And what you can use then is walnut shell, which you get here. This is 1224 mesh. I don't really know what, it's obviously the size of the walnut, but I don't really know what difference it makes. But anyway, it's just ground up walnut shells, and this just acts as a soft polish for it. So we've removed all the rust, but look, you can see how it's just brightening everything up now to practically as new. Obviously things which have been worn and pitted, you can still see the pitting in there because you can never obviously get rid of that, but there's no rust left in it. It's nice and polished. I mean, that's pretty damn good. So I haven't had to sit here working away at it with my hands. I've just put it in here. Look at these look at those bolts, how they've shined up then. So I haven't had to sit on here with a wire wheel or chemically clean it or anything like that. I've just thrown it in here and it's tumbled around and cleaned everything up. These bolts and things are the hardest bits to do manually, but look at it, it's done it all itself. What is that? That's ridiculous, that one, that's not even correct. Yeah, look at that, springs, everything. Yeah, so this tumbler, guys, is a great little purchase here. I'm really pleased with this. I wish I'd known about this before or thought about it, because it would have saved me a lot of hassle. When you're doing lots of parts like this, using a tumbler to clean it all out Saves a huge amount of time. You just throw it in there, let it do its thing, and it vibrates away quite quietly and polishes and removes rust easy for you. So that's it. Great little buy that there, guys. Tumbler. So guys, just looking at this piece here, we can see really now, well, close up what the process has done. You can see the pitting where the rust was, and it's eaten away at that metal. So that's what the rust has done to it. It's removed that metal. And then the beads and the little ceramic triangles have got in there, and they've then chipped away at all of that rust. So that's all gone. And all it's done is left behind the pits where the rust was. But you can see that it hasn't damaged the metal, because otherwise these brass bits would all be worn away, and there'd be, you know, the whole thing would be smooth if it had eaten the metal as well. There wouldn't be pits left in it. So that's what it does. It just removes any rust. So it's a really great process, actually. It worked okay on that cluster gear. It wasn't that impressive. I hadn't had it in for hours and hours and hours. But you can see these pieces, which have had quite a lot of work done to them, which were horribly rusty. This would have been just a piece of rust, is now perfectly usable now, back to sort of factory condition. So it's an impressive thing, that vibratory tumbler, guys. I'm really pleased with it, and it seems to work well for these bits. I'm going to use it on the brass bits as well, but just with the walnut shell, and see how that goes. But there you go, guys. That is a couple of bits we're getting on with at the moment. Moses meowing again in the background, trying to get in here to stand on everything. But I hope you like that as usual. If you like it and you want to see more, click on the subscribe button. We're going to be taking the Jeep off to Goodwood shortly. There have been a lot of videos coming out with that, so that should be interesting. But as I said, yeah, like and subscribe, guys, and I'll see you next time. Thanks a lot.